Okay, today we are going to be watching a little bit of the Poisonous Message of Ratatouille by Type 2 Productions. I did a video about the Shrek one, about Lord no about Lord Farquaad being right. A lot of people liked it, quite frank. So I mean, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this again. I mean, I guess people liked it, so we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this one. But anyway, um, I've seen, I shouldn't say like I've seen a lot of Ratatouille, but I somewhat got like I think it was uh the mouse became like a chef or something. It became a chef or something, and it's something around like he was doing like making food or something like that, something like that. And I haven't seen like the whole movie or whatever. I've seen like snippets of it or whatever. But anyway,
Movie that's consistently praised by critics and audiences alike for its beautiful animation, quality
see,
voice acting, and its wholesome message. Now, while I wouldn't argue with you about those first two, I would heavily disagree about the good message.
Yeah, I think the main messages being
oh,
pushed in this movie sound
rats.
really good on paper, but the moment you actually stop and think about what's being said, they reveal some really destructive messaging. And it's even more concerning when you consider that this film is primarily aimed at a younger audience. And as is the
Oh
case with
boy.
so many films that are made these days, there's a very clever but also very intentional effort on the creator's part to subconsciously influence the viewer to come around to many of the ideas that are being pushed here. Instead of teaching wholesome traditional values, Ratatouille's message is that you should never allow nature to dictate what you're capable of, chasing your dreams can never lead you astray, and that critics must be silenced if they get in the way of progress.
Oh,
Now, I can already see it coming from a mile away. Before anyone says, it ain't that deep, lil' bro, consider what Edward Bernays said about motion pictures almost 100 years ago. He said, quote, the American picture is the greatest unconscious carrier of propaganda in the world today.
yeah,
It's a great distributor for ideas and
yeah.
opinions. The motion picture can standardize the ideas and habits of a
So,
nation. I mean, the director of Ratatouille even tells us this in this clip.
We're doing a movie about Remy the rat cooking in a restaurant of his hero, Auguste Gusteau. It's a wonderful, far-fetched premise. We couldn't be more fantasy-oriented. But if you have these nods to the real world, they give the fantasy a
okay, the
believability
black
that
haired
it wouldn't
girl
otherwise
did
have.
looks
And if you
look
can
look look
get people
looks
to
okay
believe
hot.
something that is
Though
inherently
I'm an
unbelievable,
Asian lover, I do.
then that's
But
the
I don't know if
magic of
she's Asian,
movies.
but
Now,
she's quite
having
quite
said
hot
that,
to me.
let's dive right into the movie. The main message that you see being present in Ratatouille is that anyone can cook. Now, throughout the entirety of the film, Remy's problem fundamentally is that he's a rat.
What's my problem?
Okay, anyone can cook. Anyone can cook. Mhm. There's a certain person who I want to say so bad, but I'm not gonna say the person's name. You know who you are, and quite frank, uh, some of my daily viewers, you know who this person I'm talking about, but again, you know, um, but regardless, look, a rat can do it. You can do it, man. Again, if rats can do it, and they got like what a picture book. I guess looks like a picture book, quite frankly. Looks just like a picture book. Um, I mean, you can do it. You can do it. Hell, I learned. I learned if I learned to cook, quite frank, and I'm gonna tell you, quite frank, a little bit about me. Um, quite frank, I'm quite the donkey, quite frank, quite the donkey. Um, I'm brain slow processes. Um, so it may take you some time, but you can do it. The small steps, small little steps, you know, can work wonders. Betty,
First of all, I'm a rat.
Now, because he is a rat, Remy's excluded from human society and hated because of what he is, and even
yeah,
has his life threatened multiple
yeah.
times
No
throughout
one
the
likes
course of the
rats.
movie. Now, Remy's dad understands and accepts his lot in life as a rat, But Remy continually fights against his nature to pursue his ambitions, even when it endangers not only him, but the people that he claims to love.
We look out for our own kind, Remy. When all is said and done, we're all we've got. This is the way things are. You can't change nature.
Change is nature, Dad. The part that we can influence. And it starts when we decide.
Now, this is just another way of Remy saying that tradition or the natural order is essentially a prison that's meant to keep you back and hold you down.
Well, and ironically, a few scenes after this very conversation,
fair.
Remy's dad is totally vindicated when just about every single human that Remy comes in contact with tries to kill him, as his dad said would happen. But very early on in the movie, we're shown that Remy admires humans despite his father's warnings about how dangerous they are. We even see him adopt some of their mannerisms, like walking upright instead of down on all fours. And as Remy spends time in the old lady's kitchen at the beginning of the movie, he's exposed to Gusteau, a famous chef in Paris that gives justification to all the fancy dreams that were already in Remy's mind. His famous tagline, "Anyone can cook," is naturally appealing to Remy because it validates a belief that he already holds. And unfortunately, in the real world, many of us fall into the same trap as Remy. Instead of us worrying about the things that actually matter, like taking care of our families, our communities, we allow institutions like Hollywood to plant these ideas in our head that try to sway us to work against our own interests. And because of this outside
Okay, just like the many the big ass corporations, you know, like just like the many big big ass corporations. You don't need a 30-minute break. No, just hop back on that machine. To drink a cup of coffee. You can do it. You can do it. You gotta sacrifice. You gotta sacrifice for the company. You have to bend over backwards and push through the hard work that we give you with probably no sleep. Not probably have no sleep and all that shit, right? You gotta work hard for it. You want that big promotion. Here you gotta accept these low ass pay and all that shit. Oh yes, don't work smarter. Don't you work smart. You gotta work harder. That's how you gotta do it. You have to work hard to get where you want. You gotta work hard. You gotta work hard. You gotta bleed and sweat, for this company. But as soon as you do something bad, or as soon as the company sits there and say, we're gonna have to let some people go, you're on the chopping block. You chop. There you go. See ya. Oh, I have families and kids to pay on. I have kids. I have family. Well, that's not our problem. That's not our problem. Go on now. Get out of here, you. Scram. Get the fuck out of here. Um, and quite frank, that's I was telling my uncle about like few weeks ago, about last week or whatever. I know I'm yapping. Um, that sure. I mean, they that guy, I forgot whatever the hell the fuck his name was. Murdered that CEO guy, the healthcare CEO in the back. I was thinking like, it didn't really change much. I mean, except that now, quite frank, now they know you can't fuck around too much, a little bit. You can't fuck around too much, um, but they're still gonna do it. So it's like but anyway, I'm rambling.
influence, Remy comes to view an essential job, like sniffing out poisonous food for the Rat Clan, to be a boring waste of his talents and beneath him.
And what's even more concerning about this is that the television has corrupted Remy's mind to the point where his own internal monologue isn't even his. I mean, this rat is so lost in the sauce that Gusteau has replaced the voice in his head and repeatedly guides him away from what's best for his family or even his own well-being and towards this obsessive pursuit of his own dream regardless of the cost. The movie goes out of its way to tell us that the version of Gusteau in Remy's head is not actually the real Gusteau, but a figment of Remy's imagination.
I am a figment of your imagination.
Now, this means that Remy's identity has been so jeopardized by what he has seen on TV that he can no longer separate his own identity from the one that was fed to him by the magic box. We're susceptible to this type of programming as well. Every piece of media that we consume has a deep psychological effect on us, and the makers of these pieces of media absolutely know what they're doing and will use it to weaponize against us, to implant all sorts of ideas in our head and even identities that aren't ours.
Okay. This reminds me. This reminds me of the MK Ultra CIA program and shit like that. It reminds me of that a little bit. If you don't know, go look it up.
And instead of exposing this or calling this out or critiquing this, the writers of Ratatouille seem to frame this as a good thing.
But because of the message that Remy heard on TV, he starts to genuinely believe that anyone can cook, and he acts accordingly. The movie clearly states what its central message is through Ego at the end of the movie.
In the past, I have made no secret of my disdain for Chef Gusteau's famous motto, anyone can cook, but I realize only now do I truly understand what he meant. Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere.
The message is that even something as humble as a rat can accomplish great things. Okay, what then does the movie and its writers expect us to do with this message?
I kind of think the message isn't so much that anyone can cook. It's actually more in line with saying, give everyone a chance to cook.
Right.
Step aside and allow new talent.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, what happens when you let anyone cook? Guinea pigs, considered pets in America, being grilled right on the streets of New York City. Ugh. 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 I can't.
Talent to flourish. But the problem is that kind of messaging leads to things like letting 100 third world Indians into your country so that you can find the one talent.
Okay, wait. Okay, Google, Microsoft, Albion, Additive whatever. IBM, Palo Networks, and now Twitter, run by CEOs who grew up in India. Wonderful to watch the amazing success of Indians in the technology in a technological world, and a good reminder of the opportunity Americans offer to immigrants. Yada yada. They were Indian flag, American flag. Congrats, Pogba, whatever the hell that is. U.S. benefits greatly from Indian talent. And this is Elon Musk, Lord.
Talented coder. The other 99 might poop in the street, but you just got to go with the flow and make sure you don't miss on that one really good coder. But since the phrase anyone can cook applies even to a rat, what the movie is actually saying is prejudice of any kind is unacceptable under any circumstances.
Okay, I take it back. Maybe
that every single member of
maybe I was too forward with the black haired girl, quite frank. Maybe she's dangerous.
Gusteau's kitchen is a criminal, a liar, a cheat, some kind of outcast, and yet because of this movie's stance against prejudice, it's still not enough because they don't accept rats among their ranks. And naturally, this leads us to the movie's second core message, which is don't give up on your dreams. One of the more pernicious lies pushed by Ratatouille is that dreams can never be wrong or misguided. Time and time again, Remy's father shows him incontrovertible evidence that proves he will never be accepted by humans, no matter how hard he tries, Yet Remy refuses to relent and give up on his dreams.
Ooh.
Take a good long look, Remy. This is what happens when a rat gets a little too comfortable around humans.
From the beginning of the movie until the very end,
Why would
Remy
they put
barely
that
changes.
like that?
Literally every other human aside from Linguini, Colette, and Ego want him dead the moment they see him. And what's even worse, as we've said several times, Remy's dad, despite being 100% right about humans and how they view rats, eventually gives in and enables his son's self-destructive delusion because he discovers just how much cooking means to Remy.
This really means that much to you?
Honey, I brought back enough tomatoes to last us a whole month.
Oh, good old AI. But I mean, you want to when you're a father, you want to support your son. But sometimes, you might not want to do.
But we are family. You tell us what to do, and we'll get it done.
This is catastrophically bad messaging. The film is essentially saying that anyone who stands in your way is simply holding you back, and the only people who truly love you are those who blindly bend to your every whim. Now, because of this, the movie places the burden of reconciliation on everyone but Remy. Remy's dad.
Okay. I was last. Okay, I just want to say I kind of find it funny that just imagine. Okay, just imagine if those people knew that the rats was cooking their food. just imagine.
Linguini, Colette, and Ego, and even all of the rat colony have to change their behavior to accommodate Remy and never the other way around.
Furthermore, because Remy accepts this premise that anyone can cook, this will also justify all of the insane actions in service of fulfilling his dream of becoming a chef. Gusteau's ideals enable Remy to commit the most cartoonishly selfish and irresponsible behavior, yet the movie always frames him as the sympathetic hero. He consistently chooses his passion for cooking over his family and repeatedly exposes not only himself, but his entire colony to danger. Even after he's just been captured and almost killed by Skinner, the movie's primary antagonist, he says that he views cooking and his family as equals.
I don't want you to think I'm choosing this over family. I can't choose between two halves of myself.
I'm not talking about cooking.
Not only is this an insane thing to say, but I don't believe him. When he initially gets separated from his family, he never attempts to search for them, and he teams up with Linguini and never looks back.
I mean, even whenever he's reunited with Emile and his family, Remy cannot wait to leave them behind to continue cooking at Gusteau's.
Hey, what are we doing? Dad doesn't know you're alive yet. We've got to go to the colony. Everyone will be thrilled.
Yeah, but...
What?
Thing is, I kind of have to...
What do you have to more than family? What's more important here?
Well, it wouldn't hurt to visit.
And what's crazier is that attempts weren't even made to balance these two things out. Remy is more than happy to let his family potentially die from poison if it means he gets to go on cooking.
And finding someone to replace you for Poison Checker has been a disaster. Nothing's been poisoned, thank God, but it hasn't been easy.
I am sorry, Dad.
Well, the important thing is that you're home.
Yeah, well, about that.
Now, I gotta say, this is an absolutely vile message to signal to a young audience. This will only lead to more sad people dying alone because they bought the lie that a career is just as important as family, if not more so.
I also want to point out that sometimes what the movie portrays as his passion for cooking is actually just Remy's ego. We mentioned how poorly Remy treats his family and colony, but he's also perfectly fine using Linguini as his puppet so long as he gets what he wants. After Linguini takes control of the restaurant, there's a press conference and he nearly blows Linguini's cover just because he's jealous that Linguini doesn't tell the journalist that he is the true mastermind of the restaurant.
Wow.
Which is absolutely nuts because they would immediately kill him and then shut the restaurant down for good.
You know, I can't help but wonder what Remy wanted Linguini to do here and how he expected this interview to play out.
Well, it kind of shows you the delusion he's been living in. Does he think they're all going to celebrate him as the top chef of Paris?
That's what it seems like he wants. But then because of this, he just throws his entire relationship with Linguini away because Linguini doesn't give up the ruse, which Remy wants hidden, by the way.
And to even further prove just how little Remy cares about his family, Right after this press conference, him and Linguini get into a fight, and previously, when Emile, Remy's brother, and his friends showed up outside of Gusteau's, they asked for food, and Remy was reluctant to give it to them because he didn't want to steal. However, right after this little fight him and Linguini have, he tells them to gather the entire colony so that they can all raid the kitchen.
Wow.
He only gives them food to spite the one human that is on his
Who
side
helped
in
him?
this movie and endangers all of their lives in the process. This really just further proves what we've been saying. Horrible behavior can be excused as long as you chase your dreams.
Now, not only does Remy endanger himself and his family, but on top of all that, he also lies, cheats, steals, kidnaps Skinner and the health inspector, and he does all of this in service of his dream, meaning that there is no boundary this rat is not willing to cross if it means he can cook. And that kind of demonstrates that
Wow.
Gusteau's motto, anyone can cook, can be used to casually hand-wave away every rotten decision, because to give up on a dream is totally unacceptable according to the film's own logic.
And if we
Well, I'm
follow
glad-
this
I'm glad you
doctrine in
watched
the
this
real
movie.
world, it often ends up in young adults sharing a moldy apartment in LA with 8 other people, paying $4K a month in rent, relying
more.
on blind hope for a better opportunity in the future. This is exactly what the elites want. They want you isolated and demoralized so that you're easy to control and will gladly accept your role as a cog in the machine that overwhelmingly benefits their interests and not your own.
We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around.
Yeah,
There's been a
there you go.
systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude.
We gotta kill it. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man. It's such a terrible thing. It's such a terrible thing to have. That. Oh.
Movie. Ratatouille posits that it's a thing to be celebrated when talented people pursue their dreams, but never once does it stop to ask the most important question of all: at what cost? I mean, at any point in the movie, does Remy ever get reprimanded or punished for all of his misdeeds and irresponsible behavior?
No.
And what's worse, not only does he not get reprimanded, he gets validated. But insult's also added to injury whenever you consider another one of the film's primary messages, which is that criticism of any kind is massively destructive.
And you see that right from the start of this movie, where the writers set the stage for how they feel about critics in how they portray Anton Ego. His name alone already indicates how the creatives behind this movie feel about criticism
That's
of
someone
their
who's
work.
worked
It's
too
not
much.
exactly subtle. When we first see him in the opening, he looks like a vampire,
Yeah.
and they even give him the moniker the Grim Eater. And later, when we see him in the writer's room of his house, it's shaped like a coffin, and his typewriter looks like a skull. They could not be more on the nose with
Wannabe
how
vampire.
against criticism they are.
It's heavily insinuated that the reason for Gusteau's death was his sorrow at the loss of his 5th star as a result of Ego's bad review of the restaurant.
This is the creatives behind this
Gets
film
criticized
using
once,
Ego
dies.
as a vehicle
Wow.
to seethe at fair criticism, but also they financially gain if standards are in the tank and everything gets positive reviews.
We don't see Ego again until near the end of the movie when he shows up to destroy Linguini's career with a review. But luckily for Linguini, Remy's there to save him. And Remy chooses to serve him ratatouille, which, as Colette notes in the movie, is a peasant dish. Now, you would think this wouldn't impress a renowned critic like Ego, but luckily this was his favorite childhood dish, and it invoked his nostalgia for his childhood.
Yo, okay, that small little bit of crumb right there. Hold up, let me see. Let me go back to this, because it's look at this. Okay, look at this. Okay, this is perfect. I don't know. There's some good ass luck right here that I got it like that. That plate, right there, that small tray of food right there is worth. I'll be willing to fucking bet that small itty bitty food is fucking worth maybe 50 to $80 for that. Can you imagine paying that much money for a small fucking portion? I could never. I could fucking never. I would flip. Okay, if I ordered that, okay, okay, if I ordered that, right, and that's what I got, quite frank, what I would do, I would one ask, is this really it? This is really it, right? And tell me there's more. Tell me there's more. No, no, it's not. No, this is it. That's it. Okay, okay. I would eat it, eat it once if I can, and then I would get up and leave. That's it. That's it. That is it. That is it for me, quite frank. I mean, I I would rage. You know, I could rage past anything like that. I ain't gonna solve shit. I'll take eat it once, then guess I'll never come back there again. I would stop that. I would stop. I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back to a place like this.
Impress a renowned critic
Skinny.
like Ego, but luckily this was his favorite childhood dish, and it invoked his nostalgia for his childhood. Maybe you read this differently than me, but this kind of seems like a not so subtle way of the writers telling us that even the harshest critic is only that way because he is deeply biased.
That's what I took away from it. It's that he's not actually credible because he still suffers from the same bias everyone else does.
So more people
Yeah, it's all just your
bought that.
opinion, man.
It's
But
crazy.
after the big meal, Ego learns that the chef was actually a rat, and he not only accepts it, but decides to become an investor in a new restaurant with that rat as the head chef.
Are you
and in this
crazy?
scene, we have a core message clearly spelled out for us through Ego's monologue.
In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and themselves to our judgment. We thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to write and to read. But the bitter truth we critics must face is that in the grand scheme of things, the average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticism designating it so.
His little spiel here
That
is
sounds right.
crazy to me. He delegitimizes his life's work and his own vocation to simp for a rat. This is clearly the writer signaling to the audience that having standards are bad. Ego's next line in this monologue reveals the true value that a critic can have by the movie's standards.
But there are times when a critic truly risks something, and that is in the discovery and defense of the new. The world is often unkind to new talent, new creations.
Oh,
The new needs friends.
So, by this movie's logic, a critic is not valuable for pointing out flaws or suggesting
got big
improvements. Their value is in making sure that prejudice doesn't keep real talent from shining. In this case, a literal rat.
Have you noticed that Hollywood has this weird fascination with making traditionally gross or ugly characters and creatures the heroes of their stories?
Yeah, it's almost like a lot of the people behind these Hollywood movies see themselves in these rodents, and they've got to constantly remind you that you should allow them into places and jobs they don't belong.
yeah.
Now, Ego ends his big monologue at the end by saying,
To say that both the meal and its maker have challenged my preconceptions about fine cooking is a gross understatement. They have rocked me to my core.
Now, up until this point, Ego has been portrayed as a vampire that preys upon the real artists brave enough to put their creations on display for the world to see. And his redemption comes only once he loosens up on his rigid worldview and learns to be more open-minded.
Want to be vampire.
Open-minded to have a disgusting rodent handle his food before he eats it, by the way.
Yeah, but that's good because he's not prejudiced.
Let
Don't
me
you know
drink my
racism
red
is the
wine.
worst
Let me
crime you
drink
could
my
possibly
red
commit?
wine.
Finding out that a rat cooked his meal should have disgusted Ego,
Yeah.
but instead he embraces it simply because the new, as he called it in his monologue, must be objectively good because it stands in opposition to the established way. Ego exists simply to show us that having standards stifles creativity and deprives us of experience in the work
How dare you
of
have
truly
standards?
great artists due to our own prejudice.
How dare you have standards and morals? How dare you?
And it's clear as day that prejudice is so evil in the minds of the writers of this film
How dare
that
you?
deception
It's
is
just, you know,
excused as long as it is in service of overcoming that prejudice. No one would ever eat at a restaurant if they knew the chef was a rat,
Yeah.
but lying to your customers is totally justified as long as it allows a marginalized group like the rats to succeed.
no one would eat
So
at
I
a
take it the
restaurant like
writers
that.
aren't big on this whole consent thing?
Well, I think that's obvious when you look at my boy Remy, who just forced Linguini onto Colette in that one scene.
No, no!
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Ready? Here we go. Okay,
I swear, I hate these freaking unskippable ads and shit like that on freaking YouTube. You know, sure it's 15 seconds, but like, come on now. And they're back-to-back ads.
To talking about some of the characters. Every character in Ratatouille is defined by where they stand in relation to Remy and whether or not they support his dream. If they support him, they are good. And if they resist him for any reason, they're bad. There's no nuance, there's no argumentation. The only person that can be accepted as good is the one who blindly submits to Remy's every whim.
Oh,
Let's
hey,
start
hey,
this
hey.
discussion with the
Okay, hold on. This guy's from that meme. He's from the meme where you read the list or whatever and he freaks out or whatever, I think.
One who blindly submits to
Skinner.
Remy's every whim.
Let's start this discussion with the primary antagonist, Chef Skinner. Almost every single thing that Skinner is villainized for throughout this movie ends up being the objectively correct decision. Had he fired Linguini on the spot when he first spots him in the pantry talking to Remy, the restaurant would still be open.
Skinner's also the only person in the kitchen who seems to care that Linguini is acting nuts. Linguini moves around the kitchen like he's the corpse in Weekend at Bernie's. And for the crime of noticing, Skinner has to be gaslit, humiliated, and punished.
One piece of dishonest framing the movie gives Skinner is they try to paint him as this soulless corporate shill because he creates a successful frozen food brand with the restaurant's branding. And they try to imply that he's sullying Gusteau's reputation by compromising on the restaurant's artistic integrity.
What are corn dogs? Cheap sausages dipped in batter and deep fried. You know. Guy slop.
And I really don't get this. This was a profitable venture that didn't affect the quality of the actual restaurant food as far as we're shown. So what is worse? That some snobs might turn up their nose because Gusteau's is selling mini corn dogs or burritos in the supermarket, or the whole place being shut down because it has rats in the kitchen. And like any sane person would do, once Skinner realizes there is a rat in the kitchen, he rightfully tries to get rid of it and Linguini for allowing it in the kitchen, which is totally logical.
Yeah.
Anyone that actually gave a crap about the business would do the same. I think an argument that people will try to make for him being evil is the fact that he didn't tell Linguini that he's Gusteau's heir because it would have given him full control of the restaurant. Skinner is clearly self-interested and wants the restaurant for himself, but it's perfectly logical for him to want to keep it a secret because Linguini's mother explicitly asked him not to tell him that Gusteau was his father. Not to mention, they paint Skinner as crazy for being suspicious of Linguini, but as Skinner correctly points out, some random boy arriving right before Gusteau's will expires with a letter from his recently deceased mother that no one knew about, claiming to be Gusteau's son, is indeed
highly suspect.
But shifting focus now to Anton Ego, aka Review Bruh's dad. Ego is one of the movie's many attempts to strawman those who don't agree with the movie's message. They frame Ego as this miserable old fart who doesn't like anything and is only negative because it's fun and gets a lot of attention. However, Ego's words paint a very different picture. Ego isn't critical of food because he hates it. Ego has incredibly high standards because, as he says in the movie,
I don't like food, I love it.
He's critical because he has high standards and rightly understands that love doesn't exist without judgment, which is a truism that is totally lost on us in this current media hellscape. If standards evaporate, so too does quality. This necessarily means that some hopeful aspiring chefs will fall short of the standard, even if their dream is to cook. And if we are so endlessly tolerant that we accept something just because it's new, then we're practically begging for quality to take a nosedive.
This is how we ended up with media out of the movies industry, the TV industry, the games industry, that is such trash, is that instead of demanding better, instead of viewing it as a
Yo, dude, our man
transaction,
just had an
people take
orgasm,
on
like,
these
eating,
properties and make it their identity and will
eating
defend
the
it to the
food,
death no matter
and
how
the other
garbage
guy's
it
like,
is.
"Oh, this is
And then
nothing."
sit there and screech self-righteously let people enjoy things instead of actually focusing on the quality of the thing that's been delivered.
Both Skinner and Ego are rebuked because they represent the status quo. Skinner is shamed for the incredibly logical perspective that rats don't belong in the kitchen, whereas Ego is able to find his redemption in overcoming his prejudice and accepting rodents handling his food.
I mean, rats
What a
don't belong
hero.
in the kitchen. Like, really?
What are we
Yeah.
talking about, dude? What is this message?
The good guys always accept the unacceptable, dude. And if you need help differentiating between the good and bad guys, just remember the classic Hollywood rule. The bad guys are short and or ugly because the writers always have to project their own insecurities onto the messages they disagree with. Now, contrast the antagonists that we just went over with the protagonists of this movie. I don't feel like we even need to touch Remy. We've gone over at length how selfish and deceptive he is. But what are the positive qualities that Linguini possesses?
The answer's none. Linguini is Ratatouille's Forrest Gump. He is a completely useless retard who's little more than a leaf in the wind. He can't
Damn.
even be a garbage boy properly. Within the first 5 minutes of working at Gusteau's, he spills the soup. This
Oh.
guy's an absolute golem that exists solely to help
Wow.
redefine the main message of the movie and to serve Remy as he demolishes his father's legacy.
The movie clearly subverts our expectations by making Remy the one to whom the phrase anyone can cook gets applied and not Linguini. I also found it funny that the writers want so badly to subvert the status quo by having Linguini, who's this son of a renowned chef, be a terrible cook, yet a literal rat is Gordon Ramsay. However, throughout the entire movie, when
idiot
Remy
sandwich,
gets himself
yeah.
into a jam, like when Skinner captures him, or when the entire kitchen staff quits on the night that Ego's there to
Oh,
review,
damn.
he gets bailed out by his family only because his father Django happens to be the head of the Rat Clan. They would not do this for some random member of the Rat Clan who went out of his way to abandon them. These movies can never have a consistent logical message because the values of the people in Hollywood are illogical.
One of the things I find really disturbing about Ratatouille is that it's going to fool a lot of people because its messaging is quite subtle. And one of the ways they get that through is through this really deceptive wordplay. The first lesson the movie teaches is that anyone can cook. But instead of actually meaning anyone can cook, what it means is don't let prejudice blind you to genuine talent, wherever that talent may come from. No matter the cost, we have an obligation to let anyone cook. That's the message. That's the real message. Then message number 2 is the movie says chase your dreams, which sounds good on the surface, but a deeper examination shows that what this really means is irresponsibly sacrificing everything for the sake of fulfilling your own personal ambitions. If your family or friends don't support you, what that means is
Forget
they're
'em.
nothing more than ignorant haters who are just trying to hold you back. And then finally, the movie
Oh yeah, yeah, dumb damn haters, you know, dumb damn haters. Uh, um, y- okay, yo, okay. If you don't like Hollywood enough, Hollywood, and and the government, they do this shit well. You know, they really do the shit well of, their messaging. And the news media and Hollywood, that's the one thing they do well. Again, and quite frankly, they know how to tell a good story. They know how to tell a story that pulls at your heartstrings. Sit there and say, "Oh, look at this." Okay, here's an example. Let's say a kid gets gets their food stolen, right? Gets their food stolen by a robber or something. Tonight, 6 o'clock news. Kid gets robbed and beaten. Stole all his food is stolen from. And then they'll do an interview with the kid. They'll sit there. The kid will cry. They'll do a nice little close up on the right on the tears. You know. Oh oh yes. Just now. Can you sob just a little bit louder for us? And give us that nice good ugly cry. And say, they're bad people. they're bad people, which they are, but could make it super good for us, so we can really sell, we can really milk this story, we could really milk this story.
Sends the message criticism is destructive. Now, this means that we should never criticize someone who attempts to chase their dreams because anyone can cook after all. And who are we to deny them their dreams? This necessarily means that standards have to be lowered to accommodate the outsider, which is what this movie is trying to push. Accepting outsiders, let anyone through the gates, evaporate standards. So what do you get when you try and synthesize all these ideas? You get a freaking meme. Accept the outsider into your country because their food is good. That's the message.
Well, it's deeper than that. Ratatouille is yet another Hollywood film that follows the trend of many others before it by using rats, which as we know in the real world are pests, and through the power of animation making them look cute and cuddly. It uses them to convince younger, less discerning audience that they should accept outsiders without question. The suicidal empathy
don't hurt the rats. Don't hurt them. Don't you step on them. Don't you kill those nasty, disgusting rats that fucking crawl through your house and freaking and steal your freaking food and run all over the place, leaving diseases and everything under the fucking sun. Don't you hurt
taught in these films has already and will continue to convince young adults to actively prefer the outsider over their own people. And if that's not enough, one of the writers of Ratatouille, Jim Capobianco, wrote and directed a spin-off short film titled My Friend the Rat, in which Remy and Emile break the fourth wall and try to convince the audience that rats and humans should live together in harmony. And if some of these clips can't convince you of what we've been saying throughout this video, I'm not sure anything will.
One pair of rats can have 15,000 descendants in a year. That may not sound good to you, but it's good for us, since the world is out to get us.
What?
Abandon Russophobia and embrace a new utopia. Imagine, if you will, a world where women, rats, and men and children live in peace and harmony. So here we go to Mars, with our stories intertwined, and although once you tried to kill us, now we know that you won't mind.
So what do you say?
What?
Can we make peace and...
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of Pixar Animation Studios or the Walt Disney Company. Interaction between rats and humans should be deemed
over yet.
activity
No.
involving
Emil, how many times did I say they were going to slap something on the end? And now they're doing it. Now, look at this.
Yeah.
It's like it's in their DNA.
Ow. Oh my god. Okay, Jew hatred is inherent in the European DNA. Europe will never change. Jew hatred is inherent in its collective DNA. People like you only make enthusiasm increase. It's in your family DNA.
Whoa!
Okay. I can't. I mean. Okay. The spin-off shit. The spin-off stuff. Like, I guess they thought it would work. I mean. Okay. I mean, it sounds alright, but when you get down to think about it, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, like, wait, it makes you sit there and think for a good minute. Like, did I really just watch? Did I really just see that? It's just crazy. Um, but god damn, look at this big boy over here. Um, there's another video that I might do. If this gets like 5 likes or 4 likes or some shit like that, I'll freaking do. There's another one that I wanna check out, but this one just came out like a few days ago. So yeah. But yeah. Um, I like this. I like this, quite frank. I hope and pray like someone they do freaking Aladdin. I excuse me. The, you know, that I think that'll be a nice little movie for them to do. Um, 'cause, they We should really, we should be seeing, more critics, more, stuff point out to like this of old movies, quite frank, back in the day. Um, and maybe some good old shows as well. But anywho, that's about it. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna do Kikino later, so look forward to that. It's been an afternoon, like around 2, 3, something like that. But also, I'm doing Secret Agent tomorrow, so look forward to that. But anywho, I'll see you all next time. Oh, also, I would know, what you all think of my little guy over here? Um, hope you like him. Um, excuse me. But he's still work in progress. I got another one, but I'll show that later on this afternoon. But anyway, thank you all for coming. Oh, wait, hold up. Let me change it. I'll lovely anatomy. But yeah. Also, never mind. Hold up. I was going to say something, but I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna say that in the video this afternoon. Hey, I'll see you all later.